Welcome to GCSA Live TV, well, virtual live TV. We should have been sitting in Las Vegas. Instead, I'm Frank Rossi from Cornell University, sitting around with some of the folks from the Andersons. The TV show is presented in partnership with the Andersons, one of our sponsors here at the 2021 Virtual Golf Industry Show. I've got Dave Loudit, the territory manager for the Andersons, Ed Price, also a territory manager, and Tony Goldsby, the director of sales for Andersons in the professional turf market. So listen, we're talking Humates, Ed, and I got my own ideas, but I want to hear what your ideas are. Tell me, you don't look as old as I do, but we're pretty old together. Tell me the history of Humates.
Absolutely, and thanks for asking, Frank. Well, the Andersons really were brought into this humate market and this humate business from our ag brothers. Our ag brethren have used humates in crop production for years, and they've struggled with applying these products. And with our technological prowess, in the pro side, we have built these products, these dispersible granule humates, and now they're easier to handle. So, it really has been a good technological boom for our ag brethren and ourselves, because now you can put a granular out there, you can topically apply it, you can side dress with it. There's a lot of uses. And again, if you can spread it and you can blend it and it disperses, we've added a lot of good qualities to that humate business.
Okay, so you want to give me just I want a little bit longer than an elevator, but not as long as a funicular ride up the side of a hill. What's a humate and why should I use it? And why should I care it's in a granule? I got 15 people selling it to me to spray. Other than I love the way you guys formulate granules, tell me a little bit about why I should use a humate and what sets the Andersons product apart there.
Well, first of all, I like to say we were carbon cool before carbon was vogue and fashionable. We've been putting, humic in our products for a long time. And to directly answer your question, what a great food and fuel source for the microbial populations out there. And what we're finding, Frank, is with our dispersible granule technologies, we can prove it in the ag space that we can get 1.5 times the production in a plant with 25 pounds per acre versus 100 pounds per acre, of the dusty existing products that are out there. So really, it's really been a good thing for our business and for the ag business as well as the golf business.
So thank you for proving it. And it sounds like my colleagues at Iowa State have been conducting some work to sort of get around trying to prove this in turf. And certainly, feeding the microbes is important, right? It's probably helping release some of the nitrogen that might be bound up in organic in the organic matter that's there. But Tony, what did the Iowa State people work on, and what did they find?
Well, yeah, thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. And, humates are kind of one of those weird substances that, we've been messing around with them as a human race for hundreds of years, but I'm not ever sure that we exactly knew what we had on our hands. And, we started doing research at the Andersons, one-off studies around humates and how we could reduce overall nutrient inputs as they related to nitrogen, as early as the late 90s, early 2000s, and what we wanted to do with this study is really piggyback off of some of those one-off studies and partnership with the Iowa State team of Adam Toms, Nick Christians, and then sponsor a doctorate student, AJ Lindsay, who's doing an in-depth focused study on looking how humate really impacts not only the nutrient efficiency aspect of this puzzle, if you will, but also how it directly relates to turf grass, because there's a lot of research that Ed just mentioned on row crops, ornamental crops, and things like that, but very few of these are specifically using granular applied humates on turf grass systems. And one of the things we, again, wanted to be able to show is that, again, we can reduce the overall amount of nitrogen that you have to put out while using that humic bridge and still get high quality turf, right? And again, that sustainability factor is a big piece of our mission and what we're trying to do with these products.
Now,
Some
are
of the
they
studies
going
that
to
we're
look?
looking at.
I'm sorry, Tony. Are they
Go
going
ahead,
to
Frank.
look at one of the big selling points, of the carbon thing, whether it's cool or otherwise, is that there's this idea that you're directly impacting soil biology in a way that sort of gives us a positive response. Humates are related to increasing cation exchange capacity as well as sort of enhancing microbial activity. Are they looking at those sorts of things, Tony? Are they going to look at, because I'm with you. I've seen the studies that show you can drive down nutrient use with a lot of different products. You guys are particularly claiming there's some soil biology involved here. Are they looking into that?
Yeah, so I mean, we started obviously pretty simple, Frank, in terms of like, hey, what are we doing when we add humate to urea, right? From an anatomical standpoint, we get improved rooting. So both on Bermuda grass and Kentucky bluegrass, we can get significantly improved rooting, all parameters, if we add humates into the equation. What we don't know, which is really hard, as you just said, to quantify, is what are the impacts we're having on some of the things that are going on below the ground. So we're looking at both a USGA spec sand-based putting green and a Kentucky bluegrass native soil, and looking at things like microbial biomass, using the Slavita CO2 burst test and some of those things to see what is the real impact, not only at time of application, because we know, those microbes go to work on starting to break down those processes right away, but also, is there a residual impact, and how long is that residual impact occur for? We're hopeful, between looking at, those two different management systems, if you will, between the sand base and the native soil, we'll be able to glean some of those differences. And again, really excited to be able to bring this research as it pertains specifically to the turf space, as opposed to, again, we've done a lot of research around periphery crops that, as we know, just don't always explain what's going to happen in the turf grass system.
And big kudos for stepping up, right, and paying the bill, because I don't know about you guys, but it costs money to do the things we do. And I don't see anybody walking around passing around the money in places I work. So it's certainly really good that you guys are sort of putting your money where your mouth is. But you've also opened a bit of a door here when we start talking about playing around in the soil and the other sorts of carbon sources that can be used. So Dave Loudit, there's biochar, there's humic acids. What other kinds of things is the Andersons group getting involved in when it comes to the way you're sort of formulating synthetic nitrogen into these natural, with these natural products, these bridge products, that I think we're sort of missing how unique this is overall. But let's talk about some of the other things that the Andersons are doing with biochar and humic acids.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity, Frank. So really, our to echo what Ed Price talked on earlier, our journey began here, several years ago, and what we started out with humic DG, which is a straight DG humate product. And then we kind of transitioned into what we call black gypsum, which is also a DG technology, which is a combination of humate and gypsum. And now our next product line here is going to be the humic DG Char X, which is a combination of humic DG and biochar. And what we really found here is we combined some traditional fertilizers with the humates and with the black gypsums. We've just really enhanced the performance of those products, Frank. We originated with our humic products. We experimented with using humic DG in conjunction with methylene urea-based products. And, our theory there was, we're putting the carbon in here to feed the microbes, which then in turn are going to help break down that methylene urea. It turned out to be a tremendous combination. Then, as we gathered our forces and moved a little bit further, we came upon this black gypsum product, and we began to sell the black gypsum not only as a standalone component, but as a significant portion of a fertilizer product, where we actually created a 2204 type product, and we pulled all the traditional generic crushed ag limestone out of that product that's really not doing you much nutritionally, and we replaced that entirely with black gypsum, and now we have a full complete fertilizer. So when the turf manager goes out there, he's not spreading any stone or any filler. all nutrients. And now as we transition and go to biochar, what we've seen with traditional biochar type products is they have some of the same issues as the humates did when they first came to the market. Dirty, dusty, hard to handle, tough to spread. So we've embraced our DG technology and actually have a product that's going to be 50% humate, 50% biochar in the DG form with that technology. So when the water hits it, completely disperses into the turf canopy, it can get activated. So we're really excited about where we're going.
Well, I mean, not for nothing, and I'm no rocket scientist, but I look at any bag and I see inert ingredients on it. I'm like, okay, I just paid to move a whole bunch of corn cob, and now you're telling me calcium carbonate around. What you're telling me is I'm essentially reducing inert materials, that you're selling me something that is not just a certain amount of nitrogen, but even what's not nitrogen is pelletized in a way I can spread it, and it's homogeneous to the point where it breaks up, or is it coated?
So the black gypsum DG is a DG technology, and we use gypsum in there in conjunction with the humic. And what's really nice is when you make that application, the water hits it, becomes immediately available to the plant, so you get plant available calcium, sulfur, and humic acid, and you have no dirty, dusty limestone in there that's really doing nothing for the plant, not in my lifetime at least.
All right, well listen, let me go back to you, Tony, because one of the things that's left out here is, what are superintendents telling you guys? I mean, obviously I've seen this technology. I bumped into John Pope over the years and heard him talk about these things, and I'm wondering what you're hearing back from the people who have been using this a bit in the marketplace.
Yeah, so Frank, I mean, I think, honestly, there's been a lot of guys that have already started to use biochar in a lot of different applications, even replacing potentially the 15% peat portion of a USGA greens mix with all biochar. So, a lot of them are really excited, but the one limiting factor, as we all know, is how do you get that through the canopy of the turf down to the soil where the magic happens, right? So, again, I think, in this case with our, dispersible granule technology, getting that biochar down to the soil surface where it can start to be integrated down where it's going to do the magic is the real key here. So I think a lot of people are excited just, again, to be able to expand the opportunity to be able to use it in management applications where they already knew the benefits. They just struggled on how you were going to put it down and integrate it into where it needs to get.
So, Ed, you gave me the history. Let me tell you, seems like everybody and their brother's selling carbon. This is
Absolutely.
The new buzzword. A few years ago it was foliar, and I don't know, it's one thing after another. What makes this different? What makes this better? To me, is what I often think when I think of you guys is, man, you got the formulation thing nailed down. These things are just hard to apply, and now you got it figured out. Is that what we're talking about here? Or what else sets this apart for you from some of the other flooded things in the carbon market?
Absolutely, Frank. Our DG technology is what separates us across the board. And also our SG technology separates us because, when the foliars, they wanted to come out with the foliars early on, there were sinkers, there were floaters, and it really didn't solubilize. So, we've got an A game technologically, and we've got the technological prowess to put it in a granule and give you a soluble granule. And that's really helped out our brothers in the industry, in the ag space, as well as our turf grass management professionals.
Well, listen, there's no better way to end a conversation when you can bring up sinkers and floaters. And I'll thank the three of you from the Andersons Group, Dave Loudit, Ed Price, Tony Goldsby. Thanks for joining me. I'm Frank Rossi at Cornell University on the GCSA virtual live TV stage, brought to you by, in fact, the Andersons. We just had a lovely conversation about Humates, biochar, and all things carbon in that wonderful DG technology. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back with our next segment in a little bit.